Joe, would you mind just taking a moment just to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Joe Neerman. I'm a New York litigator turned YouTube content creator. And right now I am living the dream as far as what I probably feel like I was always meant to do, in that I have a channel where I produce the occasional video, but I basically am engaging with thousands of people on a nightly basis. I do that 5 to 6 times a week. And for some reason, people seem to keep coming back. So
you must be doing something right.
Something.
That's great. I always love that. I always love hearing people who, you know, for lack of a better term, like they strike gold and they just, you know, just keep going and things just keep, you know, good things. I don't know. I'm not sure what your take is on this. People, like when you start to get on like a little rhythm here, you tend to find more and more success the more you keep doing it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in confidence. And you know, the most confident person in the world, whoever he is, has some insecurities. We all have our own personal insecurities. And when we struggle to find success, those insecurities start to flare up. For sure. And I think that, so that's why, and since confidence breeds success, that's part of why I think people get on a roll. I don't think it's just some karma in the air. Right. Although I do think I am a big believer. I'm a religious person. I'm a big believer in God, and I think God plays into it. But you know, just on a humanistic type of perspective, I think that our confidence just breeds further success, and you gain more confidence as you succeed. So it becomes a nice little a healthy snowball, as opposed to sometimes most people in life, I think, tend to suffer more from the opposite snowball. That it's like things start going wrong, and they start, you know, feeling like they're drowning and becoming pessimistic and losing their confidence, and it tends, unfortunately, to snowball in the opposite direction. Right. So it's nice to be on this side of the mountain. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It reminds me of one of my favorite all-time quotes. Is I think it was John S. Mills. I think if I remember correctly, Mills being the last name. But anyways, the quote is, "Luck is a residue of good design." So you know, you oftentimes hear people say, "Oh, right place, right time." Well, yeah, but there's a reason why. You know, right place, right time. You knew your instincts were kind of putting you down that path to be wherever it was you were when you became really fortunate, really successful. Kind of like what happened with the Rittenhouse trial. But with a lot of the law tubers, I know you know, my sister was, you know, that helped boost her profile quite a bit. I'm sure it helped you too as well. Yeah. Although I gotta tell you, I don't think luck is a residue of design has anything at all to do with what I was just describing. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Well, no, because luck is think about it, brother. Luck is the residue of design is basically saying if you invest a lot of effort into planning things out, you will tend to be more fortuitous, as opposed to the confidence element that which I think is true. I think it's true. But I was really focusing more on when someone feels confident about something, that things tend to work. I'm just saying, those are two different elements. Those are two completely different elements. No, I'm very into dissecting things. No. Yeah, I am too. I really like writing. No, that's a good call out though. I would agree with that. It's you're talking about more about confidence. I think that's I guess that's just what it reminded me of when you were saying that, just by doing this, but being on a roll, so to speak, right? Okay, cool. And so Joe, so you're a New York native in New York City. Are you like right in the city right now? So I'm not living in this. I grew up in Flushing, Queens, and spent the first, I don't know, 35 years of my life there. And then when it was time for me to buy a house, so I couldn't afford anything in my neighborhood. So I'm an Orthodox Jew, and Orthodox Jews by design, we're not ghettoized historically because of the fact that, you know, the non-Jews herded us together. I mean, that happened obviously, you know, decades ago in Germany, but for the most part, historically, for thousands of years, even when in diaspora, we've always herded together. And part of that is, if you're a practicing Jew, we pray 3 times a day, and you're supposed to pray in what's called a minyan, which is a gathering of 10 men. And in other words, you can't live off on an island by yourself and really be a fully observant Jew. So we tend to live, that's why you have these Orthodox Jewish communities. Besides that, there are other ritualistic type of things, which, you you need to have certain things set up in order for a community to actually operate. You need to get kosher food. You can't get kosher meat if you go out to, you know, middle Iowa to some small town. They just don't have it. They don't have it there. So that's why we end up always congregating together, which means that if I'm looking for a place to live, so I need to find a Jewish community. I'm not going to just start building my own Jewish community.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of choosing from like a bunch of different hotspots, which are potential avenues. And all the Jewish areas in New York City, the prices were just ridiculous. Like a fully attached house was like $500,000. And, you know, so I moved out here where it's like, you know, I have a nice little plot of land over here in Jersey, 10 miles from Midtown Manhattan.
Okay.
And yeah, I paid under 400 for it. So that was like something that I could at least, you know, afford.
Yeah.
But I, you know, I'm only admitted in New York City. So I kept practicing in New York City. And when lockdowns came, my practice really dried up, and I started engaging in social media, which is something I had always done anonymously. Like I would basically, I had different names because I was like, I don't need people finding me or getting mad at me. So I just always, and also I'm so old, like that. I remember when the internet started, nobody used their real name online. This is a new phenomenon that started with Facebook or maybe MySpace. But when we first came on, for security purposes, we were always told, no, use some handle, create some name for yourself. Don't use your real name. It was only when social media became popular and everyone's posting pictures of themselves and their kids and whatever, that's when people started using their real name. So for basically the first 15, 20 years of the internet, I was always operating under a pseudonym. And then when lockdowns came, I was like, you know what? Let me try branching out into, like, you know, stepping out as myself and engage with people, because I would always enjoy a nice, healthy dialogue with someone who I disagree with, who I can sort of like share with them logically, not trying to win a fight for the purpose of winning a fight, but just here, let me engage your brain and tell you why I'm looking at this from a different perspective. And you tell me why you're looking at it from that perspective, and hopefully somewhere along the way we'll find truth.
Right.
So that's basically, so I was like, you know what, let me try doing this as myself. And I happen to live in the same community as Ron Coleman. And I was shocked when I came onto social media and I saw this guy, he prays in the same synagogue I do. Okay. So for a decade. And I'm like, he sat behind me and I would barely say, you know, good morning to him when I would see him in shul. And he looks when you see him on the street as just like another typical Jew, nice guy, nothing, you know, another lawyer, which my shul has plenty of lawyers.
Right.
So I never had anything to do with him. And all of a sudden I look and he's got like 150,000 subscribers on Twitter. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Who is, like, it was like the weirdest thing in the world. And yeah, it turns out like he's, you know, some national celebrity of sorts.
Right.
In that, you know, he's argued before the Supreme Court. And he had talked to me about that once. And he successfully argued in front of the Supreme Court. He won his case before the Supreme Court. Wow. And yeah, he had the Slants case. The Slants were basically I think they were like a rock group, and their name, the question was whether their name was racist and could not be trademarked, and therefore could not be trademarked. And he ended up defending them and getting the trademark, I believe. So yeah. So anyway, so he had a bit of a following, and he started promoting people to follow me. And then I started just talking on YouTube, and he would share that. And this Minnesota lawyer saw one of my rants, because I would basically rant about different things. Like a year ago, I was ranting about certain things, like, you know, about certain elections and certain court certain court
I wonder
decisions.
which ones, Joe.
Certain court decisions involving Pennsylvania and Texas. And this Minnesota lawyer is like, hey, you want to come on my show? And I was like, sure, what time are you on? He's like, midnight we start. And I go for like 3 hours. And I was like, okay,
why not?
And yeah, and at the time, actually, so that was Nick Ricada. At the time, he had 90,000 subs. By the time I came on his show, he was like close to like 150. He had jumped up like considerably during the time from when we scheduled to when I ended up appearing, and we hit it off really well. We were just like and I ended up coming on a show a few more times. And I consider him like a real friend. I met him once, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we were both down in Florida at the same time last spring, and I met him, and I actually took him out for a night of drinking, and he got him nice and plastered right before he went on air, and he was and we have a genuine connection. We're like, you know what, we have a deep mutual respect for each other and enjoy like just chilling and hanging out.